Discover the incredible truth. A heartwarming story of life-changing transformation revealed. Jake stood in the flickering light of his family's shop, the scent of motor oil filling the air, reminding him of his father's steady hands. He was just 30, yet the world felt heavy on his shoulders. His little sister, Jenna, darted around the garage, her laughter echoing off metal walls. Her spirit was a small flame amidst shadows cast by their mother's illness and the looming threat of change. A news report hung over them like a storm cloud. Ethan, their high school classmate turned tech mogul, was opening an upscale car dealership nearby. A bright symbol of progress, but for Jake it felt more like a death knell. The whispers started quickly. Jake's auto shop was just an old relic, they said, an outdated place where rust came to die. Each murmured word echoed in his mind. Each gaze from townsfolk felt like a knife. Was he truly obsolete? Jake grit his teeth, anger welling up within him. His father had instilled in him an unwavering work ethic, a pride in fixing what's broken. As he wiped his greasy hands on a rag, the dark stains reminded him of his struggle, but they also symbolized resilience. Family came first, and he fought fiercely for that. Over dinner, amidst the clanky forks and Jenna's innocent chatter, Jake caught a glimpse of joy, if only for a moment. Each smile, each laugh around the table was a reminder of what he fought for. Jenna's dreams shimmered with possibility, a stark contrast to the creeping doubts surrounding him. She believed in magic. He believed in work. But the tension was palpable. The townsfolk were quick to judge. And when a minor mishap occurred at the shop, a spilled container of windshield wiper fluid, chaos erupted. The tide of community judgment turned harsh and swift, drowning Jake in whispers of failure and incompetence. It wasn't just shop gossip. It threatened to rip the bond between him and Jenna apart. In this grim moment, a chance encounter with Amy, his old friend from high school, reignited something in him. Her eyes sparkled with warmth as she reminded him of his strength. "You're more than just a mechanic, Jake. Your work is vital." Her words stirred something deep inside. He had the grit and tenacity like their father before him, and he needed to remember that. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But just as he gathered strength, the flood came, literal and metaphorical. Willow Creek was swallowed under a deluge, forcing neighbors to look beyond their differences. Suddenly, they were all in it together. Their biases washed away in the muddy chaos. Jake took charge, organizing sandbag lines and pulling people together. In that moment, he wasn't just a mechanic. He was a leader, a beacon of hope. As waters receded and the town began to heal, revelations surfaced, intertwining Jake's family legacy with Ethan's glitzy dealership. The town buzzed with questions. Could it be that roots ran deeper than rivalry? Was reconciliation even possible? Jake stood on the precipice of change, and the heart of Willow Creek raced with him, leaving more than just secrets waiting to be uncovered. What lay ahead could be life-altering, not just for him but for everyone around him. Days passed, and Willow Creek began to emerge from its watery ordeal. The air was fresh with the scent of wet earth. People took to the streets, not as strangers but as neighbors united by their shared struggle. Jake found a renewed purpose as he worked side by side with Ethan's crew, their hearts binding over the common goal of rebuilding what Mother Nature had torn apart. Jake stood tall, directing volunteers and inspiring the community. Each drop of sweat that rolled down his brow was a testament to the strength he tapped into during the flood. But amidst the camaraderie, doubt still lingered, whispering like shadows in the back of his mind. Friends had become competitors, and he battled with the idea that maybe he wasn't good enough to keep the family shop afloat. One evening, under the soft glow of street lamps, he caught Jenna's eyes looking up at him. "Jake, can I show you something?" she asked, her excitement bubbling over. Intrigued, he followed her to a small patch of ground next to the shop. There she set up a makeshift garden of wildflowers, bright against the drab concrete. "See, it's like us. Even in the mess, something beautiful can grow." Jenna smiled, her innocence cloaking him in warmth. Her words struck a chord deep within him. Maybe that's what the town needed, a little light amid the uncertainty. He knelt beside her, planting seeds of renewal, both in the earth and in his heart. They talked about dreams and wishes, gentle laughter breathing hope into the air. The next day, regardless of apprehensions, Jake made a small but firm decision. He would reach out to Ethan. The rivalry had dominated their youth. It was time to bridge that gap. With each step towards Ethan's new dealership, his heart pounded. Fear mixed with excitement. Would Ethan see him as a foe or a fellow business owner seeking to better the town they both loved? The dealership was sleek, a stark contrast to the rustic charm of his shop. As Jake approached, he saw Ethan chatting with a couple of customers, his confident laughter echoing in the open space. Taking a breath, Jake raised a hand, catching Ethan's attention. Their eyes locked, an unspoken understanding passing between them. Ethan greeted, a genuine smile spreading across his face. "It's good to see you. How have you been?" Jake hesitated. "Actually, I wanted to talk to you about the shop. About everything." As they ventured deeper into a discussion, Jake was surprised by Ethan's openness. He listened intently as they shared stories of not just competition, but collaboration, their father's legacies interwoven through hard work and determination. Suddenly it didn't feel like a threat. It felt like opportunity. Jake realized that they could complement each other as strengths rather than clash. But as excitement crept in, another storm brewed on the horizon, threatening to shake the fragile bond forming between them. Rumors were swirling again, spurred by some townsfolk who saw any union as a betrayal, reigniting the fire of doubt. Their hesitance to embrace change loomed over like the very clouds that once flooded their streets. Would Jake's budding friendship with Ethan withstand the storm of the past, or would it shatter under the weight of the town's fears? As hope mingled with uncertainty, Jake knew he needed to act quickly. With Jenna's spirit lighting his path, he made a pact with himself. He wouldn't just fight for the shop, he'd fight for the community. The next few days would determine their fates, and time was running short. Would he have the courage to show everyone that transformation was possible? With every heartbeat he felt the pulse of possibility. What would he do when the next challenge rose to meet him? And how would he reconcile his past with the future he dared to dream? The sun rose bright on Willow Creek, casting beams of hope through the branches of trees lining the streets. Jake stepped outside, the morning air crisp against his skin, and felt an urgency wash over him. Today was the day he had to make it known. This town could thrive again. He had spent sleepless nights weighing options, sketching endless plans, and grappling with the mounting pressure. The community needed unity, a fresh start, something to rally behind. And as his glance drifted toward the patch beside the shop where Jenna's wildflowers danced in the breeze, he knew what he had to do. Community Day. He announced at the volunteer meeting that evening, excitement lacing his voice. "Let us bring everyone together for a celebration: music, food, games. A chance to remind us of the strength we share." The air buzzed with enthusiasm. Volunteers began trading ideas, their chatter filling the room as they rallied around Jake's vision. Even Ethan leaned in closer, a playful grin on his face. The idea of friendly competition bubbled to the surface. What if each business showcased their specialties during the event? It was the kind of spirit they both craved. But as Jake left the meeting, that creeping doubt returned. Willow Creek was wounded, still raw from the flood, and not everyone would embrace change. He envisioned the faces of those who thrived on tradition, whispering fears and doubts. Heart-pounding, he reminded himself of Jenna's wildflowers. They had broken through the concrete, and so could he. The next few days passed in a flurry of preparations. Ideas sprouted like weeds, surrounded by a motley crew of community members who poured their hearts into what was quickly becoming a revival. They painted banners, strung colorful lights, and baked endless treats. The laughter that rippled through the streets felt almost magical. Jake often found himself exchanging playful banter with Ethan, which felt foreign yet exhilarating. But a small part of him still clung to that history of rivalry. Maybe it was just yesterday's ghosts he had to bury. With each laugh, each shared goal, a flicker of something bright ignited between them. It was a reminder of their childhood days, of simpler times. But word began to spread, and soon rumors of the event reached corners of the town that were hesitant about change. Mistrust slithered through conversations, like a thick fog settling at dusk. "Not everyone's going to support this," Ethan said one evening. a frown marring his forehead as they worked on a banner together. Jake's heart sank. We have to give them a reason to believe. They need to see togetherness, to feel the bonds that can form when we choose to rise instead of fall. The final touches were being made as the day approached, but Jake felt the heaviness of lurking fear. What if the event failed? What if the townsfolk turned against them? As the sun dipped below the horizon on the eve of Community Day, Jake stood outside his shop, staring at the vibrant colors that now adorned the street. There was a feeling of anticipation, a sort of calm before the storm. Would it bring the community together? Or would it shatter the fragile connections being built? He took a deep breath, running his hands over the banner one last time. Tomorrow would decide everything. But what if the past caught up with them? What if old grudges drowned their hopeful dreams? The stakes felt higher than ever, and right then he wondered, was the gamble of transformation worth risking everything he had fought to build? As night settled over Willow Creek, Jake knew one truth. Change was never easy, but without it, they would remain stuck in the past. What awaited him come dawn? The first rays of dawn broke over Willow Creek, painting the sky in soft hues of orange and pink. As Jake stepped outside his shop, a wave of excitement tinged with apprehension rolled through him. This day could either be a turning point or a dreadful reminder of the town's struggles. He glanced down the street and saw a few familiar faces beginning to emerge. Jenna was setting up her stall, her handful of wildflowers already bright against the earthy backdrop. She caught his eye and flashed a smile that wrapped around his heart like sunshine. "Big day today, huh?" she called, her voice lifting in the morning air. Jake nodded, forcing a grin. "Yep, just hoping everyone shows up. It's going to be amazing," she assured him, her confidence shining through. But even her unwavering positivity couldn't shake the gnawing doubt nestled in his chest. He watched her buzz around, and for a moment, he felt his worries lift slightly. As the day progressed, people began to gather. Kids darted around, their laughter blending with the tunes of local musicians setting up on the makeshift stage. The tantalizing aroma of grilled burgers and fresh pies filled the air, enticing more townsfolk to join. Jake felt himself relax as he fell into the rhythm of the day. Felt right. But then he spotted a group forming at the edge of the park, heads bowed together in whispered conversation. A knot tightened in his stomach. He recognized a few faces, people who had lost homes, livelihoods, their trust in the promise of togetherness. It gnawed at him. Ethan walked over, handing Jake a stack of flyers for a pie-eating contest that was about to start. "You see them?" he said, glancing toward the group. "They're still hurting, man. They aren't ready for this, are they?" Jake's voice was barely above a whisper. "No. But maybe they just need to see what we can achieve together," Ethan suggested, his eyes glimmering with determination. Jake looked around at the vendors bustling about, families gathered to enjoy the food, and laughter brightening the atmosphere. "You think if they see us having a good time they'll join in? Why not? Everyone loves pie." Ethan chuckled. Jake's heart steadied a beat. Maybe this was it, the little spark that could ignite hope in those hesitant hearts. As the event kicked into high gear, Jake moved through the crowd with renewed purpose. He greeted townsfolk, his eyes scanning the wary faces, hoping to connect. Some smiled back. Others turned away, lost in their thoughts. He joined in on games, challenged kids to foot races, and helped Jenna arrange her flowers into an artful centerpiece. Every smile he heard boosted his confidence, a reminder that together, they could heal. But in the back of his mind, the doubt still lingered. Jake's gaze flicked back to the group at the edge. They were quiet, battling their own feelings amidst the laughter around them. Then something shifted. Jenna began to gather people around, encouraging them to participate in a wildflower arrangement competition. The sound of laughter sprayed through the air like confetti. Jake's breath caught in his throat as he watched familiar faces step forward to join. Just as he felt his hope swell, the crowd grew silent. A man stepped forward from the group, a man Jake had known all his life. "What makes you think this will work?" he challenged, his voice soaked with pain and suspicion. Jake's heart raced. This was his moment. The stakes had never been higher. He could either stand back or fight for what he believed in. "Because I believe we need each other," he started, the words tumbling out like a heart laid bare. "This town can't heal alone. We've lost so much, but we can build something new together." As he spoke, the eyes of the crowd fixated on him, a hush of anticipation hanging in the air. Would they listen? Would they let him in? The tension swelled, and Jake could practically hear the heartbeat of Willow Creek echoing around him. In that charged moment he realized this was not just about him. It was about everyone. Every heart holding a piece of this fragile tapestry of life. And then he asked himself, could this be the beginning of their transformation or the end of hope itself? Jake felt the weight of the crowd's silence press heavily against him. Each pair of eyes seemed to hold shared memories of loss and struggle. Heartbeats thudded like a drum, creating a rhythm of anxiety that matched his own. He swallowed hard, searching for words that would not only reach their ears but penetrate their hearts. Look, he continued, a shaky hand gesturing toward the laughter surrounding them. This day, this celebration, it's not about the pies or the games. It's about us coming together, taking one small step toward hope. Standing at the front, the man who had questioned him, Luke, shifted, his brows knitting tighter. Hope? You think that's enough? The challenge hung in the air. But Jake couldn't retreat now. He had come too far. It's a start, he insisted, grounding his tone with a firmness that surprised even him. Every big change begins with a small spark. If we all come together, maybe we can fan the flames into something bright, something healing. Uncertainty flashed in Luke's eyes, but Jake saw the glimmer of curiosity, a flicker of light in the middle of the darkness. Why not make it about us? Jake pushed. Let us show those who feel lost that they're not alone. Let's pull one another from the shadows. Around them murmurs rippled through the crowd, a mix of skepticism and intrigue. But as Jake glanced at Jenna, a bright smile danced on her lips. She stepped forward, her voice strong and clear. I believe in the power of community and what we can create together. That's why I'm here. That was it. The potential was right there, waiting to burst forth. One by one, faces from the darker group started to emerge, drawn in not just by Jake's words but by Jenna's warmth. Jake was reminded of a flickering candle in a dark room. Its light began to expand as more people ignited their own. I'll help with the wildflowers, shouted a woman named Clara, her face glowing as she approached the center. Me too, called out a teenager nearby, and soon laughter punctured the tension that had hung like a weighted blanket. Jake watched the transformation unfold. Bit by bit, more people ventured forward, intrigued by the possibility of joy in what had been a dampened existence. This was more than just a celebration. It was a reckoning. See, Ethan murmured beside him, reflecting the same smile that painted Jake's heart. They just needed a nudge. A rush of warmth bubbled in Jake's chest as he felt their collective energy shift. With every wildflower arranged and every pie plate filled, the townsfolk began to build connection again through the simple act of creating. Laughter blossomed like wildflowers. But just as the energy soared, the laughter erupted, and the festival took flight. A sobering thought snaked back into Jake's mind. This was only one day. What would happen tomorrow? With all their newfound joy, how would they face the realities that awaited them outside of this park? As he looked out over the gathered crowd, a question formed in the corners of his heart. Was this just a fleeting moment, or could it become part of their everyday lives? Together he breathed almost subconsciously. I believe it will happen together. But as the festival unfolded, he could sense that doubt still lingered at the edges. The real challenge lay ahead. Could they maintain this momentum beyond today? The sound of a guitar strumming in the distance brought him back to the moment. People were dancing, smiles beaming, the joy palpable. For now, hope thrived in Willow Creek. Yet a question lingered in the air like a promise unfulfilled. Would the light of today endure through the shadows of tomorrow, or would they slip back into silence? The sun hung low, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple as the festival continued to pulse with energy. Jake stood among the scattered decorations, watching people break into spontaneous dances, laughter blending into the sweet melodies of the guitar. But beneath that joy, a quiet current of uncertainty still tugged at him. Hey, Jenna's voice broke through his thoughts. She had come up beside him, her eyes sparkling with exhilaration. Did you see Clara? She's got half the kids helping her pick wildflowers. It's really happening. Yeah, Jake replied, allowing himself a smile. It feels different, doesn't it? Like everyone's finally waking up. Or waking up together, Jenna added, her expression softening. This is about more than just today. It's what comes after that's important. Jake nodded, the weight of her words settling on him. He turned back to the dance floor, where Ethan was leading a conga line, his laughter infectious. It felt like a scene straight from a movie, one filled with exaggerated joy and heartwarming moments. But this wasn't a film. This was real and it felt fragile. "Jake, look at them," Jenna said, pointing toward those lost in the rhythm. "If we can inspire this kind of connection today, just think what we could do tomorrow. It's like planting seeds." "Seeds," Jake repeated, his thoughts racing. "But what happens when the storm comes? What if we disappoint them? They need more than just a good day. They need a reason to keep going." "Then we give them that reason," Jenna said firmly, turning to face him. "Can't just be on you. You're not alone in this. They're all a part of it now." As if on cue, Clara burst back into view, her hands full of vibrant wildflowers that flared out like a rainbow. "Look what I found," she exclaimed, her voice carrying over the laughter. "I thought these would be perfect for our centerpiece." Her enthusiasm rippled through those around her. One by one, neighbors joined Clara, pulling together a makeshift flower arrangement, smiles stretching wider than ever. Jake felt the warmth in his chest bloom into something more profound. Was it possible? Could this tiny spark of hope actually grow into something sustainable? His doubts felt smaller with every cheer that rose from the crowd. But just as hope began enveloping him, a sudden commotion broke out near the largest tree that shaded the festivities. Jake watched in alarm as a small group surged toward the stands, their faces twisted in confusion and frustration. "Hey!" shouted Luke, still close to the stage. "What's going on?" A murmuring erupted, and as Jake stepped forward, he caught a whiff of something sour in the air: discontent. There stood a few older residents, voices raised as they complained about the noise and chaos. Contagious joy had quickly given way to disillusionment, and Jake felt his heart drop. "Why can't we just have one day of peace? Is it too much to ask?" An older man yelled, his frustration echoing over the cheerful strumming of the guitar. Jake froze. What had felt like an unfurling tapestry of hope suddenly seemed on the verge of collapse. He glanced at Jenna, her eyes wide and alarmed. "Jake," she whispered, fear threading her words. "What are we going to do?" As Jake faced the unfolding reality of lingering discontent, his heart raced. Would they fight for this newfound joy? Or would the shadows swallow them whole? Together he breathed again, but this time, the whisper held less certainty and more urgency. How could he rally them? Before he could sort through the storm of thoughts crowding his mind, he realized a choice lay ahead. Would they fight to keep the day alive? Or would they let it drift into disappointment? With the crowd still buzzing around him and tensions beginning to rise, Jake knew one thing with clarity. The next steps they took would determine their fate. Jake's heart raced in his chest, its rhythm a drumbeat that drowned out the festive music. He could see Jenna's worry mirrored in the uneasy faces surrounding them. People had come together in joy, only to be met with divisive voices now threatening to unravel it all. He stepped forward, that flicker of a leader's spirit igniting. "Everyone listen," he called, trying to project confidence despite the storm brewing inside him. A few heads turned, their expressions wary but curious. "Today is about connection, about you," Jake continued, his voice steadying as he spoke. "You all came here to celebrate, to feel part of something greater. Those sounds, that laughter, that's life. We're vibrant and we deserve this joy." A ripple of silence broke over the crowd. The man who had shouted earlier remained stoic, arms crossed, but the tension that hung thick began to ease slightly. Jake pushed on, drawing strength from the faces in front of him, familiar and new. "It's hard to hear the music with all these voices, I know," he said, inviting empathy. "But we can choose to listen to one another. Let us share what this day means to us." The older man raised an eyebrow, uncertainty etched on his face. "We want peace. It's all too loud, too chaotic." Jake nodded, allowing himself a moment to absorb the man's frustration. "I hear you. We need balance. Let us craft an afternoon that honors both joy and calm. It doesn't have to be one or the other." Jenna squeezed his arm, a silent plea to keep going. "Something beautiful can grow from this," she whispered just below the noise. Encouraged, Jake surveyed the group again. "What if we take a moment, maybe a breath, and then calm the chaos a little? We could designate quieter spaces where we can reflect, sit, and share stories. And when the music resumes, let us make it a celebration of all voices." There was a stirring in the crowd. The tension shifted, conversations blossoming quietly among them as they began to consider the idea. Clara stepped up alongside Jake, wildflowers still in hand, her eyes bright. And we could fill those spaces with these. She beamed. My flowers could brighten everything, and we might even start a craft table. We can bring people together. Jake felt a sense of relief wash over him. Common ground seemed to be forming. We'll make it inclusive, Jenna said, her enthusiasm rising. Everyone can share what they want to contribute: stories, music, crafts. It's about all of us. Finally, the old man uncrossed his arms, tilting his head slightly. Maybe, he murmured, the fight in his posture softening. Jake seized the moment. Then let us do it. We're all in this together. Our community is more beautiful when we embrace all our voices. With that, the group shifted in energy. Conversations flowed and plans began to hatch. The sound of laughter returned, weaving between nods of agreement. Jake felt laughter echoing in his heart, a testament to transformation. But just as clarity seemed to settle, a figure pushed through the crowd. It was Ethan, his expression grim. Guys, I just spoke with a few people and they mentioned something serious. We need to talk, he exclaimed, urgency lacing his tone. Jake's stomach sank, the weight of uncertainty creeping back in. What is it? Ethan's eyes darted around before landing back on Jake. It's about the festival and something that could change everything. Jake's pulse quickened. What could be more significant than this moment they were shaping? In the midst of rising hope, fear loomed larger than ever, threatening to overshadow everything they had built. Jake took a deep breath, feeling the tension in the air pull tighter around him. What do you mean, Ethan? He asked, his voice low and steady, trying to mask the dread creeping into his mind. Ethan leaned in, urgency coloring his words. I overheard some guys talking about a plan to sabotage the festival. They think it's the perfect opportunity to send a message. They want to spread fear during what should be a celebration. The crowd murmured, confusion and disbelief painting their faces. Jake's heart raced even faster. Panic bubbled beneath the surface, threatening to break through the gathering of that hopeful spirit they had just begun to foster. Are you serious? Jenna stepped forward, her voice trembling slightly. Why would they do that? Because they see this event as a threat. They believe unity is a weakness, not a strength. Ethan replied sharply, frustration flooding his tone. They don't want us coming together. They want to silence any hope. Jake could see the ripple of unease washing over the group. Those who had just begun to connect were pulling away, doubt creeping back in. It was as if the joy they had worked so hard to reclaim was once again teetering on the edge. Look, Jake said, raising his hands to gather their attention. We can't let fear dictate our day. We've worked too hard to bring people together. There's no way we're letting anyone take that from us. But what if they do something? Clara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. What if things turn dangerous? Jake felt a knot in his stomach twist tighter. He understood her fear. He felt it too. But within that fear lay a flicker of determination. If they want to disrupt our celebration, then we'll show them what real unity looks like. We'll outshine their darkness with our light. Jenna nodded, her eyes filling with resolve. We can't let fear win. We'll stand together no matter what. Sensing a shift, Jake lifted his chin, his heartbeat steadying with determination. Here's what we'll do. Let us tighten our defenses. We'll create a welcoming atmosphere while also keeping an eye out. A celebration is full of life at ISNT, just about the noise or the distraction, but about safety in numbers. We'll share our plans with everyone and make sure everyone is in the loop. The more aware we are, the harder it is for them to succeed. A mix of nods and murmurs erupted in the crowd, energy rekindling. The old man who had grumbled earlier now spoke, his voice stronger. Yes, right. We've come too far to back down now. We need to protect our community. Exactly. Clara chimed in, clutching her flowers tightly. If we all contribute to making this the best celebration ever, they won't have a chance to ruin it. Jake felt the strength of their shared conviction. Let us divide tasks. Some can gather supplies for safe zones, and others can help set up the craft area. We'll turn this festivity into a statement of resilience. Gradually, the atmosphere shifted again, this time with a renewed commitment. Jake felt the spark of hope reignite within him, But he also recognized the looming shadow of fear. As they began organizing, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was much bigger than just a festival. It was a challenge to the way they saw each other and the world around them. Suddenly, a crash echoed from the nearby pavilion, followed by a low murmur of concern rippling through the crowd. Jake's heart plummeted. What was that? He rushed toward the sound, Jenna and Ethan close behind. The crowd parted like water as they approached the pavilion, voices rising in alarm. What would they find? Jake felt dread creeping back in, realizing that the peace they had worked to build was now flushing away like sand in a tide. The fear was palpable, but like all great moments, hope hung on the edge of uncertainty. As they reached the pavilion's entrance, Jake took a breath, willing himself to face whatever lay ahead. Would they be able to rise against the storm threatening their festival? Only time would tell. Jake stepped into the pavilion, heart pounding in his chest. The warm glow of light from the lanterns flickered down over the gathered crowd. Their faces were a mix of concern and anticipation. It was eerily quiet, as though the whole world held its breath. A few people were clustered near the large wooden stage where the main festivities would take place, but a group had gathered around a large box that had fallen to the ground. Jake's stomach twisted tighter as he approached. What if this was part of the sabotage? He reached the front, and a murmur ran through the crowd. "What's going on?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. A tall woman with frizzy hair turned to him, her eyes wide. "It looks like it's the supplies for the crafts area. They were all stacked neatly, but now everything is scattered." Her voice shattered under the weight of panic. Jake felt a rush of anger surge through him. "Who did this?" he demanded, scanning the faces in the crowd for any signs of trouble. But no one seemed to know. "Maybe it was an accident?" Jenna suggested hesitantly, though Jake could hear the doubt in her voice. "An accident?" Ethan scoffed. "Look at the way the box is torn. Something is off here. This was deliberate." Jake crouched down to get a better view of what had spilled out. Colorful paints had rolled out, along with cardboard cutouts and supplies everyone had worked so hard to gather. The vibrant colors seemed to mock the unfolding chaos. "Focus, everyone," Jake called out, trying to rally them. "Let us not let this stop us. We can pick this up and still have our crafts area." "Right," the old man from before shouted, stepping forward with newfound energy. "Let us show them we won't be broken that easily." With that, hands began to reach out, collecting supplies. Jake could feel a sense of determination rebuilding amidst the chaos. In that moment, the tension that had wrapped around him like a rope started to loosen. They were not giving in. They were fighting back, together. "Keep your eyes open. We'll stay alert," Jake reminded them, trying to keep the group focused. It felt strangely empowering, even amidst the uncertainty. Just as they began to gather the fallen supplies, another noise shot through the air, a loud bang like a firecracker. A ripple of gasps spread through the crowd, and every head snapped toward the sound, faces pale and anxious. "What was that?" Clara whispered, clutching onto Jenna's arm. "I don't know," Jake said, his heart racing again. "But we need to check it out." They moved cautiously towards the source of the commotion, adrenaline washing over him. As Jake turned the corner, he gasped at the sight before him. A car had careened into the parking lot, tires screeching on the asphalt, and a group of masked figures stepped out. The crowd froze in shock, fear taking hold like a vice. Jake's instincts screamed at him to protect those around him. He could see people backing away, some stumbling in panic. And then there was Jenna, her wide eyes locked onto the figures with pure terror. "Everyone get down," Jake shouted, urgency bursting through his voice. "We need to cover and stay safe." As he pulled Jenna behind a nearby stall, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was no coincidence. Something far bigger and darker loomed ahead, and they were on the front lines of it. "Jake!" Ethan yelled, his tone hitching with alarm. "What do we do now?" Jake's mind raced, knowing that simply defending would not be enough. "We need to get everyone together. We can't show fear. We have to fight this with everything we've got." With his heart pounding in sync with the beat of the chaos unfolding around him, Jake made a choice. They would stand together or fall apart. And time was running out. What would be their next move? Jake felt his heart hammering in his chest, drowning out the thunder of near chaos. As he clutched Jenna tightly, he glanced around, assessing the fear painted on everyone's faces. The masked figures stood ominously by the car, their intentions veiled behind dark expressions. But they would not be met with fear. This was Willow Creek, and he would not let it fall. "Listen," Jake yelled, raising his voice over the commotion. "We won't let them ruin our day. We stand strong together." He knew the crowd had to rally. They had to fight the despair that threatened to engulf them. Ethan moved to Jake's side, his eyes fierce. "They want us to scatter. Stick together. Let us form a wall." He began directing people, positioning them behind stalls, coming together into a united force. It was instinctive. Everyone who had been part of Community Day, the laughter, the wildflowers, the triumph, now had to transform that energy into a shield. Jake felt the pulse of determination thrumming through him as others took up the cry. They were a community standing shoulder to shoulder. "Jenna." He turned, his voice steady, though he saw the concern in her eyes. "Find Claire and those kids. Get them somewhere safe. We'll keep everyone else organized." As Jenna ran, Jake positioned himself closer to Ethan, scanning the area. "We outnumber them," Ethan said, gripping Jake's shoulder. "But we need to be smart. Let us keep our voices calm. Don't let panic spread. Gather all their support. Once they see we're united, they won't succeed." Jake nodded, sheer adrenaline fueling him. He turned back to the crowd, shouting, "Everyone, gather around. Create a safe zone on the far side of the park. We can protect each other." And then a surprising sound broke through. A small girl, clutching a bouquet of vibrant wildflowers, stepped forward, not out of fear, but with undeniable courage. The crowd hushed as they watched her approach the masked figures. "I believe in you," she said, her tiny voice carrying like a beacon in the darkness. "You don't have to be scary." Stunned silence enveloped them all. Surrounded by the precarious turmoil, Jake's heart swelled. "She's right," he breathed. In that moment, the fabric of fear began to fray. The masked figures exchanged glances, something shifting in their demeanor. The girl's innocent plea echoed with the bond Jake had strengthened through Community Day. This wasn't just a gathering. It was a declaration of hope. "Everyone, let us join her," Jake shouted suddenly, feeling that spark of optimism ignite. "Let us show that love and unity shine brighter than fear." Ethan echoed Jake's rally as they stepped forward together. "Come on. Join us." Families moved forward, spilling with wildflowers in hand, all marching together like a wave of color crashing against despair. The little girl stood strong, her hands raised in a gesture of peace, and that simple act resonated. The faces of those with masks began to hesitate, vulnerability creeping in. Surrounded by kindness and defiance took hold in those moments. "This is our home," Jake called, directing the strength of their bond toward the figures threatening chaos. "If you believe in tearing us apart, then you've underestimated the power of love." A riveting tension filled the air, the impact of unity crashing against fear. The masked figures shifted, uncertainty flooding their faces. One of them dropped their guard, revealing the expression of someone he recognized. He had shared laughs with them as kids. "Jake?" they asked cautiously, hesitant and shaken. "Yes," he replied firmly. "We're not here to fight or to hate. We're here to build connections, not break them." The crowd gathered around him, echoing sentiments that spoke of love and resilience instead of fear. More voices joined. There's a chorus of family, friends, neighbors uniting in their commitment to their town. In that moment, the men hesitated, glancing at each other. The strength of their unity began to dissolve whatever barrier had previously existed. "This is not the answer," one murmured, pulling their mask down. The oppressive air of distrust began to lift, replaced by something breathtaking, the realization of community in the face of adversity. As a wave of energy surged through Jake, he held out a hand. "Come back with us. Let us rewrite this story together." And one by one they stepped forward, masks falling away, hearts opening up as they grasped the power of togetherness. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, painting everything in shades of orange and gold, Jake felt hope blossoming anew in Willow Creek. The festival resumed, feeling even more vibrant than before. It transformed into a celebration of unity, healing, and love. Jenna rejoined him, tears sparkling in her eyes. "Did you see that?" she whispered, hugging Jake tightly. Jake smiled, the warmth enveloping him. "Yeah, it's beautiful." Hands clasped in solidarity, the air filled with music again. Laughter soared through the atmosphere of their small town, the spirit of Willow Creek reignited, and Jake realized no challenge could sever the bond they forged. Their transformation together wasn't a one-time event. It was a declaration that would rip through the shadows as long as they fought for one another. Today was just the beginning, he thought, holding Jenna's hand tightly, and through the strength of community, he saw the horizon bright before them, a promise of a new vibrant leaf turned in their rich history together. Now, my amazing viewers, it's time to take action like never before. You need to subscribe now to our channel, so you won't miss another incredible story that might just transform your view on life. Hit that like button now and feed the algorithm, because together we can reach more hearts. Comment below with how you felt about this inspiring ending. I can't wait to hear from you. And please don't wait not even one more second to share this with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Let us spread the hope and love we created. This is the moment to show your support.